Hi, everybody. My name is Christian McKenzie. I am the GM, or the aptly titled Master of the Morphing Grid for Total Party Kisses, Power Rangers RPG Long Shot. And I'm making this video primarily for my players because none of us have played this system before. None of us have truly made characters in this game before. And I decided to make this tutorial for them and for myself because I have a philosophy. Whenever I gain a new RPG, the first thing I like to do is try to make a character as simple as possible for that system. One, just to get a feel for what kind of character I would want to make, and two, to understand the systems and the character sheet itself, just to see if it gels with me and see if it's simple, the instructions are simple enough that I can comprehend enough to explain it to people over and over and over again. Because character sheets are the thing you look at the most when playing an RPG or a TTRPG or anything like it. That being said, since none of my players have decided to pick a Red Ranger for this long shot series that's going to come soon, very soon, I've decided to pick my Red Ranger. I decided to cosplay and just make my Red Ranger from scratch using this wonderful book with this wonderful system. So let's get to it, shall we? Let's make ourselves a Red Ranger. This is what the Power Rangers tabletop RPG character sheet looks like. And I know it looks like a lot because there is a lot of boxes here with a lot of information and a lot of just it's not my favorite. It's a lot. It reminds me of the Pathfinder character sheet. But here's something I like to do in order to de-stress and just take away all of these boxes. We're going to go to our size chart. We're just gonna make it, condense it. We're just gonna condense this bad boy, and we're gonna tackle each section in parts. So if you see weird breaks or weird cuts, that's the parts of my script and my breakdown that requires such. And for my players, I'm going to be doing this explanation on call, right? So whenever we do a session 0.5, or you guys want to do personal character creation sessions, which I'm totally cool with, maybe we can even make it something to talk about later. If you guys want to do that, I'm fine. I'm fine with questions during call. I'm fine with questions in private. I'm fine with it all. So just do not hesitate to ask them if they come up during this character creation. Let's start with the basics. Let's start with the character's name and their pronouns and a description. Gotta have all three. So let's start with the name. Let's go with Tristan Meadows. That sounds like a good old-fashioned Power Rangers Red Ranger name. Pronouns are gonna be he, him, because I'm basic, and basic bitches love Red Ranger. Right here, basic bitch. Okay, as for a description, let's see, what's a good description for a Red Ranger? Let's go African American. Let's say 5'6". We love a short king. Let's go with 256 to 265. So I'll put 265 because we love a thick, fluffy king. And let's say they got a beard because this will be taking place in college, because I think we'll be able to tell better stories with us being older characters. So we'll go bearded, and he's got soft yet mature looking features, right? So let me just type all that down here on the character sheet. think that sums it up pretty well, don't you think? I think. What do you think? Good? I think so. Oh boy. Now onto the rest of the sheet. In the Essence 20 system, more specifically, in the Power Rangers system, your origin is who you were before you were a Power Ranger. What clique did you fit into? What personality type would you say that you have? Your Myers-Briggs association, etc., etc. To figure this out, we're going to be turning to chapter 3, which starts on page 21 of the PDF. You're going to have a few pages of flavor text, but it's also going to give you a breakdown on the things that your origin will affect. As you consider your character concept, you will also have to think about what origin fits best for your character. And the origin traits are as follows. First things first, your essence score will increase by a certain number. Think of your essence score as your starting stat in D&D. I'll go over it more later, but just keep in mind that the scores are strength, speed, smarts, and social. The 4 S's. These are also considered points that you will be using to select skills and skill levels on your character sheet. Next up, we have your starting health. It's pretty self-explanatory, but the book likes to consider health your natural sturdiness and tenacity, which is something I appreciate way more than just it being how much blood is left in your body. It's considered how much energy, how much fight do you have left inside of you. Next, you have your bonus skill levels. Now your skills, like D&D, are what you're proficient in. But unlike D&D, there are levels to how skilled you can be in something. This isn't a proficient, expertise, numeral kind of skill-based rolling. Instead, you will be rolling a die associated with how skilled you are in said skill. So you'll go from a D2 to a D4 to a D6, etc., depending on how skilled you are in that skill. Here's an example. Let's say I've got 3 skill ranks in driving. That means, along with my D20, I would be rolling a D6 along with my roll, and rolling those together and calculating the final score. Damn, that was loud. Next up is ground movement. In a narrative sense, it's used for skill checks and skill tests, and has a lot of skills associated with it. In combat, it determines how far you can move on a battle map. Simple. Real simple. Languages. Purely a role play choice. Depending on how big you want your household to be, your native language can be literally all the languages in your family. But what this is talking about is how fast you learn new languages. And depending on your social score and other parameters, how long it takes you to learn a new language. Finally, our origin benefit. Our origin benefit, again, I'm gonna keep doing this, equating to D&D. Origin benefit is like a background skill. It's something that gives you a little extra oomph in the skills department, be that extra dice, the ability to take away advantage or disadvantage, which in this game are called edges and snags, respectfully, and a bevy of other different kinds of effects that they're small, but they can be big in tight moments. Now that we've broken down what an origin does, let's apply those onto our character sheet by first picking our origin. And the origin we're going to go with for our classic Red Ranger is going to be athletic. Very first one. Makes it that much easier, huh? So back on the character sheet, at the very top where it says origin, right here, we're gonna type in athletic, not with an X, athletic. Now we're gonna read exactly what athletic pertains. Physical prowess has always come naturally to you. In all your life, you've been in good shape. It still takes a modest amount of upkeep and discipline to maintain, but that has never been a hard decision for you to prioritize such things. You likely play physical sports, work out in your spare time, and maintain a healthy lifestyle. It sounds like a typical Red Ranger, right? A basic Red Ranger, Kung Fu master, boxer, whatever, what have you type. I think this is definitely going to fit us perfectly. Starting health. You are in great physical shape and begin with 2 health. So if we go back to the sheet, we can see that our health is right here in this box. And we can put 2 right there. And because I'm a stickler and I need things centered, I'm going to just press the space bar a few times just to make myself feel better. Feel free to put that number wherever you wish to put it in that box. That's just for my benefit. Next up is our essence score increase options. We may increase our strength or our speed by +1. Now in my mind's eye, Tristan is your typical middleweight or heavyweight kind of boxer. So I'm going to give him a +1 in speed just for balance's sake. So going back to the sheet here, we're going to put that +1 in our speed right here in this box. And again, stickler, I'm just gonna center that bad boy. Tristan also gains bonuses to certain skills, a D2 skill die, or gets to add a specialization to an already established skill. We don't have any specializations, and I will be going over specializations later. But this is where our essence point comes in, or at least the one essence point we have in speed. Essentially, I'm spending that point and I'm going to put it in a skill under that tree. So you have 2 to choose from here. You have your strength-based, athletics, brawn, or might, or your speed-based, acrobatics, finesse, or initiative. Now I put my point in speed. So we're gonna choose from acrobatics, finesse, or initiative. And back on the character sheet, you can see the different skills for each of the 4 main ones. So for strength, athletics, brawn, conditioning, intimidation, might. For speed, it's acrobatics, driving, finesse, infiltration, initiative, targeting. Smarts, alertness, culture, science, survival, technology. And for social, it's animal handling, deception, performance, persuasion, streetwise. That's it. Now, I get to pick from the speed tree and put a point in acrobatics, finesse, or initiative. I'm going to put, as a part of how my thinking process is, that I'm going to spend it on finesse because Tristan is faster and swifter than he looks. So we're going to put a point in finesse by filling in the bubble. So now we get to roll a D2 along with a D20 on a skill check roll of that kind. You with me so far? It's going to be different for you because of what origin you start with. Maybe you start with athletic, who knows? But just know that that's how that works. When you have skill points, you spend them on skills and skill levels. Moving on, our base ground movement is 40 feet. So back at the top of the sheet, right where our health is our movement. We're gonna put it right here. We're gonna again center it for goddamn. I need it to be centered, right? Languages. It says here, you haven't had much time to learn new languages beyond that of your family. You are fluent in your native language and 1 additional language for every 3 points in social that you have. So, character sheet, languages, I'm gonna type in English. And we will be adding a second language or maybe a third language depending on how high our social skill goes. because who knows, we might get another language. I guarantee we'll get another language. Finally, we have our origin benefit, always training. You are used to always working out and physically training in your spare time. When making a strength or speed-based skill check in a skill that you do not possess levels in, you still roll a D2 skill die and do not suffer a snag for being untrained. That is important to note. Again, a snag is essentially disadvantage on any skill check or skill roll you have. And that occurs specifically when you are untrained in something, meaning you have no skill levels in it. There is no place to put this origin benefit on your sheet. There's no, specific place to put it on your sheet, but what I like to do is I like to go down to all the way to the bottom of the second sheet and put it in my notes. So I'm gonna copy and paste and then put it in there, like so. Boom. Always training. So I always have a note that if I'm making a strength roll or a speed roll, I can always roll a D2, even if I'm unskilled in that check. And that's your origin. Now we get to move on to the next part, your role, aka which of these lovely colors you will be playing and what your role means, both mechanically and narrative wise. But since we already determined what color my character is, let's just put that on the sheet, shall we? So back on the sheet here, we've got our role, and we're just gonna put Red Ranger level 1. And you know my rule, stickler, stickler, stickler. We'll put that bad boy in the center, or as close to the center as we can. And now we're gonna just get a little description of what goes in to your role being chosen and how that affects you and the world by reading some of the flavor text given to us in the Corebook. Starting on chapter 4, on page 29 of the PDF, we get a description of the Ranger spectrum. The energy that makes up and flows through the morphin grid takes on different aspects and possesses myriad properties. When filtered through the creative programs of the grid, this energy is manifest as a wide spectrum of different colors. Unlike a prism splitting white light, the morphing grid assigns a specific dominant color to different wavelengths of power energy. When focused through a specific conduit called the morpher, say powered by a Zeo crystal or power coin, the energy takes on particular aspects common with a specific color dominant on all the Ranger's possessions. TLDR, your choice in wardrobe is about to get real specific. It's a real call to power, the Ranger spectrum is. So just expect your wardrobe to match the color you fit with. Now, your spectrum / role is essentially your class in any other game, with each Ranger excelling at a different aspect of combat and other action-based encounters. And each color gives you a bonus to your essence score as well. Tristan is going red, so he receives extra essence points in strength and in social. So just like everything else that we've done so far, let's put it on the sheet and save it for later. So that's 2 in strength and 1 in social. Already one step closer to learning a new language. And now back at the Corebook on page 51 of the PDF, or I believe page 50 in the physical copy. We're gonna sit here and look at this beautiful, beautiful, amazing flavor text and even more outstanding character art done by, I believe, Dan Mora. But this page here is essentially telling you what exactly it means to be picked on the red spectrum and to be a Red Ranger, and examples of behavior exuded and exhibited by past Red Rangers of several seasons of Power Rangers. I'm not exactly sure what number they're on right now, but this is basically every single Red Ranger that has ever been behaves in some manner such as this. And once you scroll down one page, you get to see exactly what the leveling table of this game looks like. It's essentially like every other leveling table from D&D to Pathfinder, Starfinder, etc., etc. It's very, very simple, and it breaks down exactly what you're getting into when you're considering what level you are and what level you're standing at, and the role perks you get, which is essentially the skills you get as you level up. You'll see here on the page here your personal power capacity. These are essentially your bank of how many times you can use your Power Ranger powers. Think of them like key points, but they restore instead of on a short rest. They regain after a night's rest. Back on the sheet, we're going to put that we have 2 personal power, and we're going to, again, as always, center that 2 in the middle of the sheet as best as we can for my benefit, always. Next up, as a Red Ranger, we have specific training and specific armors, and we also gain starting skill ranks in certain skills. So in training and armor, we get light, medium, and heavy armors to pick from, if we have the chance to pick from it. And our starting skill ranks, we have +2 might and +1 persuasion. So as always, let's go straight to the sheet, and we are going to go straight down to the bottom, and we're going to put in our notes that we are armor trained in light, medium, and heavy armor. And for benefits, I believe light is a +1. Medium is a +2. Put that +2. Heavy is +4. And I can't remember the last one, but I believe that one's like +6, I believe. So we'll have that in our notes section just to have it established. Now, heading straight right back up to the top of the sheet, we have 2 skill ranks in might. So we'll go from D4, go from having nothing, going to a D2, then to a D4 in might. And then we will head to the social tree and do the same, and we will go to persuasion and add a D2. Perfect. Every ranger starts with grid equipment. Your risk communicator, your power morpher, and your blade blaster always are chosen for you. Back to the sheet, we will scroll down to the second page, and in our inventory, we will put those 3 items in there: our risk communicator, power morpher, and our blade blaster. Now, we'll scroll up a bit, and we're gonna, just for right now, your blade blaster, which is your primary weapon, has 2 modes to it. It has a blade mode and a blaster mode. So for right now, because your stats haven't been established yet, and those establish things like the range, hands, traits, attacks, etc., 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 we're gonna just put the names of the weapons you have in the weapon slot. So you've got your blade blaster, blade. Then next, your blade blaster, blaster. And finally, going back to the Corebook, every ranger gets a power weapon of some kind. For red, it's versatile, meaning you can use 1 or 2 hands with it. Now I'm going to stay classic, but weapons starts on page 106 of the core rulebook, and it is something we'll go over very, very soon. It is literally the last thing we will go over in character creation. But for right now, just know that your blade will use your might. Your blaster will use your targeting, which is under the speed tree. For Tristan's personal power weapon, we will be sticking with cannon power weapon for the Red Ranger. And we will be going with the power sword. Now the power sword goes here. Power sword. And again, weapons are a whole thing. I still don't really truly get them yet, which is why I'm making this guide now and saying this to you now, but we will establish what they mean by the end of this tutorial. Now, we have our role perks as we scroll down one page, and we find it's morphin' time. As an action, you transform into your ranger form, which gives you the following perks. Your toughness bonus is determined by your armor training. So light, again, oh, right there, light, +1, medium, +2, heavy, +4, ultra heavy is +6. Depending on your training, you can don one of these kinds of armors. All of your jump distance maximums are tripled. As a free action, you can summon any single power weapon to your hand. So if I morph, I can immediately, as a free action, summon my power sword and go at it in combat. And finally, when reduced to 0 HP, you may choose to avoid defeat by automatically returning to your natural form, your unmorphed form, and going unconscious at 1 health. Stay with me now. Back on the sheet, we're gonna put all of that, all of its morphing time, in our perks. Boom. We'll put it all there, just so we know what exactly happens when we do in fact morph. And for our first power, we're gonna get something called Power Strike. At first level, a Red Ranger's attack can be direct conduits to their raw morphing grid energy. You can, when making any form of melee attack while morphed, spend 1 personal power to add a number of bonus damage to the attack if successful. The number is listed in the chart above. So on the sheet, we will mark down that Power Strike is right there. And for bonus, we will add exactly what kind of damage, what extra damage rather, we get when we use Power Strike, which right now is just a +1 damage, but that's still big considering some enemies don't have that much health. Now, since Tristan is a Red Ranger, he has armor training in all armors except for ultra heavy. So on our sheet, we will mark down that we will be using medium armor for this. And so that goes in this section of character sheet, under strength, under toughness. I'm gonna put the armor score right there for 2. And that's pretty much it for your role. What Power Ranger you are, what color you are, that's it. That's all it is. Like I said before, your role is your class, and every class behaves differently in combat. Some are more ranged in their approach, some are close in quarters, some are faster, some are stronger. It all depends on which color you pick. Next up, we have influences. While origins are your personality's backstory, influence is your backstory event that changed who you were for the better, led you on the path that you are on now. Found in chapter 5 on page 65 of the PDF, your influence reveals a part of your backstory. It's an event or a moment, a profession, a thing that happened in your character's life that changed their life for the better and changed and pretty much paved the way for the path they are on now. A character can have multiple influences, but that also means that they can have multiple what's called hang-ups in this game. Influences grant you certain benefits. They give you a list of background bonds to choose from, or bonds that you can make up completely on your own. And of course, they give you a hang-up. A hang-up is essentially a negative behavior or habit that your character exhibits thanks to their past. For this tutorial, for Tristan, we're gonna give him the martial artist influence, found on page 71, where he gains an influence perk. Given the opportunity to observe another martial artist for 1 minute, you can learn information about their capabilities compared to your own. The GM tells you if the creature is equal, superior, or inferior in threat level to you, as well as its toughness and evasion defenses, something we'll be going into when we get to talking about essence scores, which is next. The hang up for being a martial artist is that you can't help but be a show-off, and attempts to goad you into action with social abilities gain an edge against you. Essentially meaning, if someone tries to goad me or goad Tristan into attacking them, into chasing them, they will have an advantage in doing so and will be able to roll 2 dice and take the higher set of numbers. Next, we have the chart called Martial Arts Speciality. Now, these next 2 charts are squarely, and I mean squarely, for roleplay purposes, for backstory purposes. For martial artists, it's picking which art you are a martial at. I'm sure that's the correct way to put that. Anyway, we've decided that Tristan is going to be a boxer, so right there, number 1, boxing. But I could have picked a bevy from a huge chart from different regions, different styles, all around the world, which I find absolutely fantastic. And it's the same for all of the different influences. They all have incredibly diverse and different choices that you can pick from or roll from. Really, the choice is yours. And next, after that, the second chart is the background bond. This is the pledge. This is how you feel about the world at large, or how you feel about your place in the world at large, in the morphing grid's grand design, etc., blah blah blah. And here you get to choose who you want to be as a person. For me and for Tristan, I'm gonna go with number 10. I must protect others because I have the strength and the skills to do so. Maybe Tristan had an encounter with bullies and he was chased into a dojo, and that's when he started to learn the art of boxing. And he quickly learned that maybe using your skills for evil is no good. And so he chose to protect others because not everyone has the strength or the skill or the power to do what he did, or the opportunity to do what he did. Back on the sheet, we're gonna put all that in. We're gonna put each and everything we just discussed on the sheet. So for our influence, martial artist, and then we're gonna go to our hang up. Now on this sheet, it's not great. It's not a fantastic part to put the hang up on because it looks like that, and it's very small and it makes you strain your eyes or blow up the character sheet. So what I recommend doing, I recommend scrolling down and going to your background bond and putting both the background bond itself in there and the hang up in there, like so. Boom. So now we have martial artist and we have the hang up, so we know exactly in big bold text what exactly each one does. And finally, for the perk we get, which was the being able to observe an opponent for long periods of time, we are going to simply put that in our perks like so. So we're going to copy We're going to copy and we are going to paste, and boom, that's what that looks like. It's very small, but again, I much prefer this than the alternative of putting anything in this small box here, because this small box will just continue to stretch out and go thinner and thinner, and it is not worth it. Finally, we are at essence scores. And for a reminder, essence scores are basically your stats and the points you use in order to buy skills and specializations. Found on chapter 6 on page 78 of the PDF. At the beginning of the game, you will always start with 12 skill points to spread across the 4 essence scores. And again, those are strength, speed, smarts, and social. The score, as recommended by Renegade itself, spread out at least, should be 4-3-3-2. But you are allowed to spread the numbers out however you want. Just keep in mind that there are enemies out there that can drain your essence score. And if any of those numbers hit 0, there are massive penalties to that action. And when I say penalties, I really mean penalties. Like, look at these things. Look at all of these bad penalties you could receive if you have any of these scores hit 0. Now it's time for a breakdown. A character's strength is their collective physical potential. It sets the limit of their athletic prowess, raw physicality, stamina, and ability to withstand damage, and a breadth of skills that make all the above possible. Strength essence also calculates a character's toughness defense, or their hand-to-hand combat AC. A character's speed is their natural leaning towards agility, hand-eye coordination, manual dexterity, the physical acuity, how quickly a character can react to outside stimuli, their ability to learn how to move their body and its various parts, all tied to their speed. Speed essence is how a character's evasion defense is calculated. This is essentially their ranged AC. Again, like Pathfinder calculates its ACs. Smarts. A character's smarts is their capacity of learning, understanding, logic, problem solving. The higher a creature's smarts, the higher a player's smarts, the better their ability to gather and hold information, like technological work, scientific applications, cultural specific facts, and their sharpness and attention to details. Willpower defense. Again, we are going Pathfinder with these defenses, and how well your character can hold themselves together during like an aggressive attack of the mind. Finally, social. Characters' social is their instinct towards natural charms and charisma, the potential power of their personality, their overall wit. It's through this part of the core being that we learn how to manipulate others, how to lie, how to slip through with half-truths, how to be cool and calm and collected, hide information, have animal magnetism, have animals like you generally, and just how likable you are as a person. That's what your social stat tells us. And your social essence, your cleverness defense, is how to not be tricked and how to not be goaded into being, dumb. Goaded into bad situations, being goaded into attacking someone you shouldn't, stuff like that. Your social also can be used to dictate how many languages you can learn, how fast you can learn them. Same thing with smarts, I should have said that. Smarts and social are how you essentially pick out how many languages you know, depending on your origin. Your origin will tell you which stat you are reliant on in order to learn new languages. With all that explained, with every single part of what I just said and what I just broke down, I'm going to put 4 in my strength, making my strength in total 6. I'm going to put 2 in speed, making that 3 in total. I'm going to put 3 in smarts, and I'm going to put 2 in social. I'm going to put 3 in social, giving it 4 instead. Don't forget, I'll say this right now, make it easier on yourself. Don't forget to put your new scores in the essence boxes next to the 10 here. So now that I have 6 essence, I'll put 6 there. I'll put 3 there, 3 here, and 4 here. And now that I have 3 in social, I can scroll up and I can learn a new language. Tristan can learn a new language, and we're going to learn our tokusatsu favorite, Japanese. Boom, there you go. And now we're going to do some simple math here. We're going to take the 10 right there, and then we're going to add our essence to it. And that will determine our toughness. That will determine our evasion. That will determine our willpower, and that will determine our cleverness. Those spots are filled up. Now we can also do that for the defenses we have. So right now, our morph strength, our morphed armor, our morphed AC for these boxes will be 18, will be 13, will be 13, and will be 14. Boom. Now those are filled out. And now that those are filled out, we can start buying skills and start getting into specializations. So let me now explain to you what a specialization is. Normally, when you roll a skill check, you roll a d20 plus another die, right? And depending on the skill level or skill ranking of your skill, your die would increase. It goes from, again, a D2, which is a coin, a D4, classic, D6, D8, D12. But if you specialize in a skill, you can roll a D20, a D2, a D4, a D6, etc., all at the same time. And you pick the highest number from the pool of smaller dice to add to your D20 roll. So let's say, again, going with the driving example from way earlier in this video, I have 3 skill rankings in driving, and I pick a specialization in driving. That means when I have to do a driving check, I will be rolling a D20, a D2, a D4, and a D6. I will roll all of the smaller dice, and whichever number is the highest in that small dice pool gets added to my D20 roll. Get it? Understand? Questions? I don't know why I'm waiting for actual questions, but essentially that's what a specialization is. It's a custom skill that you choose to be extra cool at, and it helps you roll high. It guarantees rolling higher than normal. All that being said, let's start to break down what each skill is and what kinds of specializations you can write, because specializations are completely free and up to you, but these are examples of what specializations you can pick for your character, for your ranger. Athletics is your physical aptitude. Actions like throwing an object at something general, running after something to catch it, climbing a building, activities that ask you to push your body in general. So specializations for athletics would include things like climbing, running, a sport that's not covered, that's not dexterous in nature. Uh, something like archery or biathlon. Nothing like that, really. Swimming, throwing, etc. You get what I'm talking about for specializations. They can be broad as hell, or specific as hell. I would say they're more specific than they are broad, but they can also be both. It's rough. Next, you have your brawn. Brawn. While athletics is a quick burst of an activity, brawn can be summed up as the marathon effort. It's your longevity, it's your constitution. Activities that take longer to perform strength wise will be under this category. So specializations would include things like dragging things, or lifting things, having the stamina to maintain the activity. Note. Here's a note for that, for brawn specifically. That the D6 carrying capacity for a human and the D6 carrying capacity of a Zord are very different. So just keep that in mind when you are building your brawn for your Zord, which we will be talking about way down the line. But make sure that you keep that in mind just in the back of your head if you're going to go for a brawny kind of character. That chart, there's a chart specifically that tells you how much weight you can carry, which is here. So if unskilled 10%, D2 25% of your body's carrying capacity, D4 50%, 100 D6 75, D8 equal to your body's weight, D10 double that, sorry, 50% plus that, and then D12 is double your body weight. So it all depends on how much brawn you have specifically. Conditioning is very important. Conditioning is how many extra hit points do you want? Because that's what conditioning is for. How many extra hit points do you think you need to survive? Because the fact that a lot of you guys will start with 1 or 2 HP, this is recommended by me. I don't know about the game, about Renegade games, but I would recommend at least putting a point or 2 into your conditioning. It's your health. It's important. You need it to stay alive, or not alive, but conscious. There you go, conscious. The next skill is intimidation. How strong of a presence do you have? Does your physique give off the air to not be messed with? Using your physical presence to catch the attention in a scene, be that narrative or combat wise. Specializations in this can include being a distraction, being frightening, and taunting individuals or groups. And finally, for the strength tree, you have might. It's your physical combat ability. It's your ability to use weapons of all kinds, both conventional and unconventional. It's your ability to throw hands. It is your ability to keep up martially. Specializations can include things like blunt weapons, grappling, a martial art of some kind, like boxing, capoeira, Muay Thai, Aikido, hip hop Kido, if you will. I will, of course, go shame myself in the car later for that's a terrible style. I can't believe it got past the NAACP. But you can also specialize in things like power weapons and pushing. You can push extra hard with a specialization with might. And speaking of might, something to consider. The pushing mechanic depends on how many skill die upshifts you have at your disposal. The difficulty of the check, depending on the size of the object and the object or the creature. And that difficulty goes for trying to make someone prone as well. The difficulty check is, of course, 12. It is a 12 difficulty check to push somebody down on the ground. And critically failing that will result in you falling prone instead. Now that we've gone over what the strength skills are, let's send our points there using this method for all stats. We're going to break down what the stats are, and then we're going to allocate points to do so. So Tristan is a boxer, a sport that takes cardio. So I think I'll give him a point in athletics. So boom, point in athletics. I'm going to give him nothing in brawn. Wait, no. I'll put 2 in brawn, right? I'll put 2 in brawn. So it gives me D4 for brawn checks. I'm gonna put 2 in conditioning. So that gives me 2 extra hit points to use. And since I already have 2 points in might, thanks to being a Red Ranger, I'm going to put I'm gonna put specialization into might instead. I'm going to put martial arts. Oops. Martial arts. Boxing as my specialization. Boom, there you go. Couple clicks and there you go. Boom. Martial arts boxing is now a specialization of mine. Breaking down the speed tree. Acrobatics, it's your body's flexibility, it's its agility, it's maintaining its balance, it's everything that's again speed controlled with your body. Specializations for it can include things like balancing on stuff, flying, which just means how aerodynamic you are as you do cool flips and tricks and hyas in the air. Gymnastics, it's your ability to parkour. It's your maneuverability, how like well you can duck and weave through crowds or weird terrain. That's what your acrobatics can do for you. Driving, it's the example we've been using this entire time. Driving is your ability to operate motor vehicles. It's that simple. It's specializations can include things like putting things on autopilot. It can be vehicle specific, so it can be like hovercrafts, motorcycles, rotor vehicles like helicopters, submersibles, trains, vehicles with 4 wheels, vehicles with wings, of course, and of course your Zords. Now that's not to say, keep in mind that you don't need a specialization to drive a Zord. It just you won't suffer a snag either if you have a specialization in driving Zords. So you won't ever have you won't ever have disadvantage when trying to operate a Zord. So keep that in mind, because that would be terrible for mechanics. I think just the worst. Just keep in mind, it might just be beneficial to just have the opportunity to have like 2 dice to roll for driving a Zord through a dangerous situation rather than 1. Just keep that in mind. Finesse, it is your it's tasks that require good hand-eye coordination. It's escaping bonds or grabs. It's tasks that require precision. Martial arts that are swifter and quicker than ones that focus on strength. So think of martial arts like Wing Chun, Kung Fu, Savate, Jeet Kune Do, things that are snappy and quick, not like methodical or heavy like sumo or judo, things like that. Other specializations can include like finesse power weapons, and one-handed weapons. It also helps cover your blade blaster because it is a very versatile weapon. Other specializations are sharp weaponry, steady actions like operating on somebody medically or defusing a bomb, right? It's also like precision throwing and trick shots, like doing your Hawkeye shit. That's what finesse is all about. Infiltration is your sneaking prowess, your ability to make yourself scarce. It's avoiding detection, it's escaping pursuits. Specializations can include burglary, sleight of hand, shadowing somebody, and stealth, general stealth. Again, it can be either really specific or really broad. It's up to you and your master of the morphing grid, your GM. Initiative. It's used in combat scenes to determine who goes first. It's the same as it's always been. You can take up to 6 levels in it. It doesn't have specialization. We'll go over this more when we talk about combat in another video. And finally, we have targeting. Much like how might is for physical power, targeting is for ranged attacks. Targeting is your proficiency with ranged weapons. It can also be used to judge distances and how to throw things with much more accuracy rather than with power. Specializations can include things like archery, ballistics, energy weapons, power weapons of that nature, blade blaster, your blaster's blade mode, or your blade blaster's blaster mode. Say that fucking 5 times fast. Jesus Christ. Throwing daggers, shurikens can go in this category as well. Trajectory, just range, like trying to figure out where a shot came from, that's trajectory, and vehicles with things like mounted turrets. Back on the sheet, I've already spent 1 point in finesse earlier, so with my other 2 points, I'm going to put 1 into driving, because I used it so goddamn much, and I think Tristan would know how to drive, right? And then I would also put 1 into our initiative, because I believe he's quick on the draw and knows when a fight's happening to go first or go as first as possible. Next up is culture, general knowledge of the world, of species, community, and other groups of sentient beings. Aliens do exist, after all. In Tokusatsu and in Power Rangers, aliens do exist. How frequent you'll see them depends on the era of which you are playing in. For Mighty Morphin, it's not as much, or it's very rare. In fact, I would say it's barely see it. You barely see aliens, so just keep that in mind. Specializations in culture can include history, languages, and be specific about languages, the language you want to specialize in, if you want to. Psychology and specific cultures. Era of which you are playing in. For Mighty Morphin, it's not as much, or it's very rare. In fact, I would say it's barely see it. You barely see aliens, so just keep that in mind. Specializations in culture can include history, languages, and be specific about languages, the language you want to specialize in, if you want to. Psychology and specific cultures. Science. How do magnets work? With science, you know how magnets work. Skill levels in this reflect how knowledgeable you are about the world at large when it comes to the scientific method, how hypotheses work, how logical you are as a person. That's what science influences. Just like culture, science's specializations entail subjects like medicine or any kind of specific science you can think of: geology, astronomy, astrology, geology. Anything with an ology at the end of it can be a specialization in science. Survival. You want to be Bear Grylls? Survival is your mainstay. This is the skill for you if you want to be that kind of person. Specializations can include cartography, foraging, hunting, predicting the weather, knowing how to traverse specific environments like deserts, forests, cities. If you want to be a Bear Grylls and you want to really not have to rely on capitalism and convenience stores, try that again. That's better. Then survival is the stat for you. Technology. Do you know how to use technology more than the average individual? More than the average bear? Then this is the skill to invest into. Specializations can include computers, engineering, specific technologies like AI, mechanics, robotics, and other technologies, as well as morphing grid tech, like the weapons you have, the Zords, Zordon, Alpha 5. The sky is the limit with what you can get away with for specializations. You just have to ask your GM, your master of the morphing grid. The question then becomes, how does a boxer allocate these skills and smarts? Boxer's pretty alert, so I'm gonna put 2 points in my alertness, and I think I'm going to put 1 point in technology, specifically because he's a 90s kid, and so he's an 80s kid, so technology's starting to get up there. So I'm gonna put technology into D2, so we can at least roll with some kind of extra die and not have to roll a disadvantage when using a computer. I wouldn't put things in survival or science or culture for him because he's pretty set on the gym, the boxing gym, and keeping bullies away from other people, from non-bullies, essentially. Last category, social. Animal handling. How in tune you are with your inner Dr. Dolittle. Do your characters have pets? How do they behave around you? Specializations can include things like riding, focusing on a specific animal, so you get to be the horse girl you've always wanted to be, and general training of animals as well. Deception. How good can your character lie? Are they good with their words? Are they able to control their body language? Wear and make disguises for themselves. Specializations in this can include bluffing, disguise, and distraction, just like how strength has a distraction, has intimidation. Performance. How good are you at the performing arts? Specializations can include visual arts, which are like painting, photography, drawing. Literary arts, which is like fiction writing, drama, poetry, prose. Performing arts, dance, music, acting, and culinary arts, cooking, baking, winemaking, chocolate making, anything you can think of with food. Those are your specializations that you can have generally with performance. Persuasion, classic. Your character's ability to convince other people, either with your words or your body language. Specializations can include diplomacy, embellishments, flattery, romance, and truth. And finally, the last skill in social is streetwise. Now, streetwise is interesting. It's your abilities, it's your character's ability rather to blend into their back into. It's their ability to blend in, right? It's your character's ability to adapt to the environments they're in. Be that social interactions or city interactions, understanding the urban environments of Angel Grove, being able to catch rumors and whispers and general goings on in the city of Angel Grove. Specializations in this skill include things like black market, crime, gossip, and transportation. Now I have 4 points in social, so I think I'm going to put 1 point in performance because I think our boy knows how to cook, so I'm gonna put 1 there for culinary. I'm gonna put 2 in persuasion because our boy here is trying to be like Muhammad Ali and just try to emulate how sly and slick his words were to get into his enemies' heads and into his opponents' minds. Or rather, how to get into his enemies' how to get into his enemies' heads and how to get the crowd riled up. Much better. And then I'm gonna put 1 into streetwise because I think he knows a thing or two about his city. And that's it. We've assigned all our skills. We have all our skills here. We have that all set up. Character sheet first page is completely done. be neat. We win. Finally, we will get to talk about this. We will get to talk about what exactly our weapons do and how they are affected by our strength and our speed. Quick side note, I forgot to do this, but because our conditioning is +2, we get to add 2 more hit points to our total. So now our total health is 4. Now we can talk about the weapons and the armor and this box that says attacks on it. I've taken the liberty of filling out what the parts of these sheets should look like. And I recommend using dual page splits for figuring out pages 108 and 109 in the physical book, but here it's, I believe, 110 to 111. This is what the full spread looks like of what the weapons you will be using include. So going here, we see that Blade Blaster, which is right here, this section, has 2 modes. As a melee, it uses your might, and as a sidearm, it uses your targeting. With its range, its reach, which is 5 feet, and if you're using it as a blaster, its range is 40 to 75 feet, meaning you have up to 40 to use it without complication. But as soon as you get past 40, that's when you can start to hit snag range. That's when you start to hit snag range, rather. In your hands, it's only one-handed. It's only a one-handed weapon. It's about the size of a dagger. As a blaster, its damage is, or its effect rather, is energy 1. And as a blade, its damage is a sharp 1. Its traits are sharp, silent, and depending on if you're using it as a blaster or not, energy. So again, coming here, we've technically filled all of this out. We figured out what this is in the book. I know this is rough to read because you can't read that, but just know that there are the classifications and things you should use for said chart. Your attack is d20 plus whatever your might or your targeting is. So for the blade, it's for Tristan, it's a d20 plus a d4 to roll to attack. For blasters, however, it's a d20 plus a d2 because I only have a d2 in targeting. For the power sword, it's a d20 plus, again, your might, so it's a d20 plus a d4. And if you use it in one hand, its effect is sharp 1. If you use it in 2 hands, it's sharp 2. Alternatively, once per encounter, you can use it to inflict energy 3. And there's a downshift in there somewhere. But that's when we're going to be talking about combat and talking about more of these traits more specifically. But for now, that's what this looks like. Your armor, simple. You only got 2 pieces of armor right now. You got your clothes, and you got your Mighty Morphin armor. So for Tristan, he's got track jacket, black jeans, knuckle gloves for taking down bullies. And that has no effect. It's got +0 to any defense you've got, but it is silent, so it doesn't make noise when you move around. But then you have his Mighty Morphin armor, which right now we have no description. It's just red. This is where your creativity comes in, with the theme of your dinosaur. If you go on Mighty Morphin, the theme with your dinosaur suit. Your toughness is whatever toughness you have training in that you want to pick. So I picked a medium armor, and I had a toughness of 2, which we put up in our armor way back on the first sheet. And it's deflective, meaning it doesn't take as much damage when you're hit by attacks. When you're hit in the show, canonically, when you're hit in the show, sparks fly off their body. That's the damage being bounced off and forced off your form. So you're able to take more damage if you have the deflective trait on. Scrolling up, same thing with the attacks. Up top here, we have automatic. We have brawling and strike. Brawling is your might, and striking is more finesse. So brawling is your punching, your kicking, your headbutts, your knees, your bites, your elbows, while striking is like your knife hand chops, your kicks, and your pressure point attacks. Both have reach, both stun 1, both do blunt 1, and can downshift and maneuver and other things that, again, what we talked about at a later time during the combat video. And one is blunt and silent, and the other one's blunt, martial arts, and silent. So we can put all those on our sheet here, and we can also include stuff like our blade blaster and our power sword or power weapon information. And that's it. That is finally it. We're finally done. Everything is filled out. Whole thing. We don't touch Zords until level 3, which I'm not sure if we'll touch Zords in our long shot. We might, and I might go over that if we do. Again, if you have any questions during watching this video or when I'm talking to you in call, and we might be watching this video as we're in call, please do not hesitate to ask me any clarifying questions whatsoever. This has been just an absolute blast to make. I think I have a better understanding on how the sheet works, about what pages are where, and overall, I'm really excited to play this system with all of you, my players, the ones I'm talking to at this moment, the ones I made this video for. I am so excited to try this out, and I may crash and burn, but at least it'll be a blast while doing it. I love you all. And may the power protect you. Bye.